talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests, it's on the Saturday Night Network.
Yes, so welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our SNL Hot Take Show, coming to you live immediately following the Nikki Glaser and Sombr episode of Saturday Night Live. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. Very excited to be with you tonight to talk about another fun episode of season 51 of SNL. Of course, we are here as a presentation of LateNighter.com. We got a chat that seems ready to go, so excited to get everybody's thoughts tonight. And of course, looking forward to hearing the thoughts of our two panelists that we have here. Returning for the first time this season on the podcast is Anthony Conway. Anthony, how are you?
I am great. So happy to be back. I feel like it's been way too long. So appreciate you giving me the phone call and having me on, John.
Of course, happy to have you, Anthony. Looking forward to getting your thoughts here tonight. And joining us as well is the great Amanda Barkin. Amanda, how are you?
I am good. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about this episode with you guys.
Yeah, looking forward to it. All right, so let's talk about what we saw here tonight from Nikki Glaser and Sombr, our fifth episode of the season, now 1/4 of the way through. And I had a lot of fun tonight. I thought that Nikki is somebody, who has waited a long time to host this show, and it seems like she was really enthusiastic and excited to be there. I'm so curious from the two of you if you have any hot takes or overall headlines for the night. So Anthony, I'll send it over to you first.
My overall headline for the night is well-oiled machine. This felt like when you're watching a really good basketball game and it's like, yeah, some people have the hot hand, so it's like keep giving it to them. And then otherwise, like, it's like everybody can kind of click and everything's operating the way that it should. That was how I felt watching this whole episode. It felt like, there were MVP moments, but overall it was very cohesive.
Amanda, how did you feel about tonight? Any hot takes or headlines?
I mean, you can't put Pete Davidson on an episode of Saturday Night Live and not expect me to write a headline about him. But otherwise, my headline is that, and it's a question, was Andrew Dismukes in every single live sketch tonight?
Was Andrew? Well, he wasn't really live for the Delta Gamma sketch. Technically, that was a pre-tape that they went to him. But yeah, you're right. In theory,
that was a pre-tape.
Well, it was a live sketch, but then when they went to the we'll get to it. But when they went to the portion of him being revealed, that was obviously pre-recorded. But at least that's the way I interpreted that moment. But we'll get to that to put a pin in it.
Okay, was he in every sketch? Yeah,
he was all over the show. I mean, I counted, again, these counts are just don't count them as official until Mike gets to it on Wednesday. But I counted 7 sketches for Andrew here tonight, which is significant. I mean, that sort of like leads me, Amanda, if you were done, it leads me to my headline and how I'm feeling about the night, which is that similar to what I said about the Sabrina Carpenter episode, I think that the cast usage overall has been so strong this season with the way that they really found a way to take most of these 17 cast members and give them opportunities in sketches. It really felt like they found something after a really rough premiere. They found a way to start using the cast a lot better. And this is the 4th episode in the row that I'm feeling really solid about. And I think it's because 2 things. Number one, I think they're finding a way to use everybody, which is great. Number 2 is that I think that the ones that they're using more are the ones that the show should be running through. So I think they're making the right decisions about who the show is being, worked through and whose vehicles are getting on screen. And I thought that was really fun tonight that we saw a good mix of different people's voices getting their sketches onto the show. It wasn't, even though Andrew had a great night and he was all over the show, it wasn't necessarily an Andrew Dismukes themed night. I thought that he was just really good at helping other people's sketches. So I can't wait to break this one down with all of you. So let's get started. Let's go to the top of the show and talk about what we saw from earlier this week, which was the guy collapsing in the Oval Office cold open, which I guess is not really like super funny, but the concept of Trump just standing there and that picture has been all over the internet. So I'm not surprised that this is what they decided to do for this cold open. But you're going to get Andrew Dismukes there as RFK Jr. We're going to get Marcelo in as Dr. Oz. Marcelo probably had the lightest night tonight out of all the people in the cast. Then we have Mikey as the Eli Lilly CEO, David Ricks, and they're all standing together doing the presentation as Jeremy, who is playing the guy who fainted in the Oval Office, which I don't think, unless the chat can clarify, I don't think there's been like official name of like who's the guy who fainted in the office. Of course, this is really just all leading towards James to do his thing as Trump, where he's going to go on and talk about the mayoral elections, the government shutdown, SNAP benefits, flights going away, all of that. It was a pretty toned down basic cold open that you would expect from this second term, all wrapped up in what we saw this week. Anthony, how did you feel about it?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It very much felt like this is, JJ doing the impression, hitting all of the beats. Very solid way to open it. Didn't necessarily feel like there was anything in it that is going to go viral or kind of have a half-life tomorrow. But a solid way to open up the show.
And Amanda, how did you feel about the cold open we saw here tonight?
I think that my fatigue kind of set back in. I had it in my head, and this is my own fault, obviously, but I had it in my head this evening that Zohran Mamdani might be in the cold open. And so that's what I was kind of waiting for Zohran to come in and interrupt Trump the whole time. So obviously when he did not, and it was just Trump babbling and talking about how everything is fucked up, like including the planes, which like we all have to take in a few weeks for Thanksgiving. I was a little bit disappointed, but it was fine. I mean, I was excited for Jeremy to get in it, but then he obviously laid on the ground for most of it. So, that's it really. I don't have much else to say about it, honestly.
Yeah, look, and I get that. I think that James is so good at going on these rants. We say it every single time we see it. So I don't want to ever take away the praise. Obviously, it is something that we have seen a lot of over the last year. So I think that it's hard to analyze in any way that would give some new creative thought to this. But I thought that this was good in all the ways that some of the other things that he's done have been good. I don't know that there was any new ground broken here. I think that in the shadow of seeing James's impression as Trump in things like the Property Brothers last week and the White POTUS last season, it is hard to watch the cold opens that are just so the same, because we know that we've seen
and they're real. Like
yes.
We did watch it on the news, like the White POTUS. We didn't get to, that's like at least like.
Yes, it's just that it's so like the impression is so good. When it's put in a creative setting, I think it's universally panned. But when it's the same thing, that sort of like take topic of the week, story of the week, and then Trump's going to come to the front and basically interrupt everything that's happening and talk about what all the things that are going on and sort of go, step by step through like what every single show has talked about all week long. I think that's where, maybe there is a little bit of fatigue. But it's not to say that that's James' fault. I mean, the show wants him to do it.
I also actually think that I was thinking during the cold open that I've gotten to the point where when I think of Trump, I think of James as Trump and not the actual Trump. Like kind of like I really have a hard time picturing Sarah Palin. I only can see Tina Fey. I think I'm getting to that point with Trump because I try not to watch Trump on the actual news that much. But yeah. I really just picture like it's kind of melded together for me, which I think is a testament to James, but I don't know what that says about me or the world.
Yeah, look, I get that. And I totally understand people who do feel like this is sort of what we're seeing week after week. And it's like, okay, well, is this going to be just every Saturday Night Live episode is going to open up with something like this? But yeah, like I said, that doesn't take anything away from James, who clearly has a significant talent to just rant on and on and on as if he is Trump. And that in itself is pretty fantastic. All right, let's go over to the monologue where Nikki Glaser does come out, talks about being a dream come true to host Saturday Night Live. She's going to do jokes about getting a spray tan. She's going to talk about getting her nails done. And then her boyfriend as well, where she does mention that he has a 10 face, but in order to get him, she needs to go down to a 5'7" man. And there's just like some other good stuff here. Talks about hiding a gun from him, showering with her nephew. So it's like a lot of stuff that you would expect to see from a stand-up comic hosting Saturday Night Live. She was on Late Night with Seth Meyers earlier in the week, and she talked about how she would be going around to some of the clubs in New York to test out her monologue. So this is a lot of what you would expect to have seen. I thought it was really cool, Amanda, to hear her talk about how much it was a dream for her to host this show, at least at the start of this. How did you feel about the monologue?
I thought it was great. Something like the energy felt a little bit off to me. I think that sometimes happens with stand-up monologues. I don't know if it's me or going on in the studio, but I look forward to a stand-up monologue. Like I feel like we're in good hands and we're not going to get like a ton of cast cameos that are throwaways. Like I think it's like just a good format. I think it was a good length. I thought she was very funny. I think she's a really great stand-up and that she works very hard. Like she comes very prepared and everything. At least like in the last couple of years, she comes prepared for everything. There were a couple really good jokes. I thought it was good.
I thought it was good as well. I knew right away, I was wondering like when they booked her, if we wouldn't get a traditional stand-up monologue from her. I wondered if it would be more done in roast style. Like my dream for this would have been that she did some sort of Don Rickles-esque monologue where she started roasting people in the audience, because I think that was something. And then when I saw the Wednesday promo and she was roasting some of the cast members, I was like, that's not going to happen. But it was refreshing to have a stand-up there do a monologue, especially after you saw what Miles Teller did last week, which was like 2 minutes of nothing. Mm-hmm. This really hit for me better. Anthony, how did you feel about the monologue and Nikki Glaser coming out?
Oh, I really enjoyed the monologue. I think, the preparation that she puts into all of her work definitely shows. You saw it with this, you see it with the Globes, you saw it last year, which really kind of skyrocketed her career with, the roast of Tom Brady. I just love that she puts that kind of time in. I love the amount of jokes that you get, kind of one after another. The pacing, the cadence of it, it's just so sharp. I also love that, she takes the edge of how far can I push the line on what I'm allowed to say on TV. That's always fun to see. And I just love big swings, even if they don't necessarily land. And I thought that, she nailed it out of the park. And I think that the reverence was there too, like you mentioned, John. The big thing is that this is a dream for her. She doesn't, take for granted the fact that she's been put in this opportunity. She does not take for granted the way that she's gotten to ride over the last year and a half or so. And I thought that energy was just very much apparent here, and it very much worked for the monologue.
Agreed. And I didn't get the official timing on it yet, but I counted about 8 minutes, 40 seconds on this one. So about half a Chappelle that she did here tonight. It was still pretty good.
But 4 Miles Tellers.
Yes, exactly. 4 that's how we measure things in Miles Tellers now. Okay, let's talk about our first sketch post monologue, which is our family karaoke night, where the parents are played by Andrew Smukes and Ashley Padilla. We got Nikki, who's playing Becky, who's the sister of Tommy's character Petey, who has brought a date to family karaoke night. And Keenan is there as DJ Freakalicious, who then introduces a song which will be sung by the brother-sister combo of Nikki and Tommy. So big night for Tommy, getting this opening sketch there alongside Nikki. They're going to sing Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. And of course, gets very romantic very quickly. We'll move on eventually to Boys to Men's I'll Make Love to You. It gets a little intense, and then the family will perform Too Close by Next together before finally the dates. Sarah will come up with Tommy, and then we'll get You Got a Friend in Me. So clearly this family is not exactly appropriate. Anthony, how do you feel about this family karaoke night?
This one was funny. I thought that this was actually a very solid way to start the episode sketch-wise, right? It showed the commitment of Nikki, I thought, from the very jump, which was awesome. Again, to your point, love that Tommy got thrown in the mix, for him to have this really nice starring moment. I thought that worked really well. And then I wrote down too, and I think we've talked about this on multiple episodes, Keenan stirs the drink, that close up that we get of him. Sorry, looking at my notes now, the close up of him saying, "You say who do what now?" Was just really, really funny. It was a very solid sketch. And by the time Next comes on, you start hearing that familiar beat with the bass. Again, it just worked really, really well. Thought this was a very strong way to start off the show. And again, like I mentioned earlier, really good way of just showing how all of the parts kind of come together to make something work.
Right. And as the chat is mentioning that I was going to bring up, so Tommy used to open up for Nikki. So there is that relationship there. And obviously Nikki would have been fighting for Tommy to get a sketch on. And Tommy's had a really solid season so far. He's absolutely exceeded my expectations. I think that it's not like I wouldn't necessarily call him rookie of the year, but I just say that like what I feel is he got his update piece, and then what I said preseason was I'm going to then judge him on what he does in sketches, and he has been all over, just in utility roles, and now he has a starring sketch here within the first 5 episodes of his career. For somebody who doesn't have a traditional sketch background, it is a improvement over what we saw from the last class that Tommy, what Tommy's doing so far in season 51. So I have to be impressed with what he's gotten on the air so far. Amanda, how did you feel about the sketch?
I loved this sketch. I was like also really excited. I feel like it's been a while since I've loved the first sketch of the night this much. I thought that Tommy was incredible. I did not realize that Tommy had a relationship with Nikki that is interesting and makes sense. I thought he was really good. And I thought that immediately. I was like, oh, okay, Nikki Glaser is like down to clown. Like she's here to send it. And obviously excited to see Ashley and Andrew together as a couple off the bat. Sarah being like the straight man, very funny. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I feel like the premise is not groundbreaking, but I really liked it. And I kind of wanted like a little bit more of an escalation at some point. Like, I feel like it was almost like disappointing, like the end.
Well, they
like,
escalated with the family, right? Where they're like, okay, now we're going to get the father-daughter.
Well, I wanted more.
Yeah.
You're going to get my voice cracking.
I understand exactly what you mean, Amanda, because like it feels like this is a plot that works, that you can almost kind of plug and play with any host and with the right cast members. So it doesn't necessarily have that moment where like, a crescendo's outside of the whole family being there, but it works because of the talent that's like, all participating. So yeah, it doesn't have like, that huge breakout crazy moment, but it works because it works.
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit here. I think, well, first off, when I first saw this, it did remind me of in Simu Liu's episode. I think there was a karaoke sketch there where they were like, it was sort of like a parade sketch, and I think there was one point where I'm gonna say, was it either Mikey and Heidi or James and Heidi? Maybe it was Mikey and Heidi, where there was like some father-daughter situation going on that really made me laugh from that episode. So chat will definitely know that. But I thought this was funny. I mean, my wife walked down the aisle to Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls this summer, so right away I was like, okay, well, there's something up here. And I think that the awkward tension of seeing brother sister in these moments is always good for comedy. And I think that it was like everyone got the premise right away. But then I think that when Sarah's character said like he's kind of humping his sister, and then the parents of Ashley and Andrew were like turning to him to her and getting like upset about that whole thing. Like, what do you mean? And then Ashley's like, what the hell do you mean? Like, I think that was the moment that I bought into what was happening here, where the family just could not get on board with anything being wrong with this. Even when they're all together and they were like, I miss grandma, like obviously implying that grandma was just very much a part of this at one point as well. So I enjoyed this. I thought that this was a really solid way to start the night, and I'm really happy for Tommy. Let's go to our first pre-tape of the night, where we're going to get the Hudsacillin, which is medicine for the Jennifer Hudson spirit tunnel, where we're going to see Nikki Glaser, who's anxious, overwhelmed, and she's an uncoordinated white woman who has to go on Jennifer Hudson's show and dance down that spirit tunnel and learn how to point and shoulder shrug. We're going to see cast members like Cam, Tommy, Jane, Ben, Jeremy, Veronica, and Ashley all in the background of the spirit tunnel as she's walking down. But if you take Hudsacillin, it'll make you so violently ill that you won't have to go on this talk show appearance. Eventually, we'll see Marcelo as the person who really just does want to participate in this spirit tunnel. Amanda, are you the Jennifer Hudson show fan? What did you think of this pre-tape?
I am a fan of like TikToks of people going down the spirit tunnel and being happy about it. I'm not a fan of Jennifer Hudson. I love Jennifer Hudson. I don't really watch any daytime television, but I thought that this was like, I liked what they were doing, and I liked that Nikki kind of anchored it and ran with it. I need to go back and see, because I don't think I caught everybody in the back of this spirit tunnel. I really only caught Marcelo. So I thought it was cool that Nikki was basically in it the whole time. I was just thinking, like, when the reveal was that the drug for the spirit tunnel was just to make you really sick, like that they could have expanded on what the drug was for. It didn't have to. I get that it was like a joke about the spirit tunnel, but I don't know if there's enough there for me to just like for that to be the whole premise. It could have just been a drug for getting out of lots of things. They could have like maybe come up with a few different options. Especially if they were going to lean more into the spirit tunnel, which I feel like they didn't. Like there were a couple shots of her, like, nightmare situation of her going down it, but it was also very quick. Like I'm going to say it again, not a lot of escalation. Like it was, you got sick and you got out of it, and then Marcelo was there and he wanted to be there all along, and then it was over. But I didn't dislike it.
So my problem with it was not the medicine. I think my problem was that it was centered around Nikki Glaser, who's playing herself in this, saying that she wants to take this medication to not go on the show, when I think that the comedy would have been hit harder had they gone to other celebrities that are also taking this. I think there's like a limit. I wouldn't want it to be like a crazy, like, hey, we're going to get 7 or 8. But I think that like 2 or 3 really solid celebrity impressions from the cast coming in here as other spokespeople for the drug, I think would have really like hammered this home. And I think that even like someone like trying to walk down the spirit tunnel, like one of the celebrities, but getting violently ill as they walk down the tunnel, I think was something that's also missing from this sketch. Anthony, how did you feel about it?
You mentioning that actually, yeah, it does kind of give you that thought of like, had they had either a cameo or a really, really good impression, could have definitely escalated it and given it a little bit more, just a little bit more meat. I think Amanda kind of hit it. It felt very fast. It felt like, here's the issue and here's how we're going to fix it, and now we're done. I thought that the premise of it was very smart, because I hadn't seen anybody try to take this on this way before, and I thought that it was like, a very funny thing. I love watching the Spirit Tunnel clips, but it's always funny to hear about the celebrities that actively decide not to participate. So yeah, the sketch works, but yes, you pointing it out, there were a lot of moments that I think, had you made some tweaks, made this a little bit longer, and added a couple of more performances, could have definitely elevated this a little bit more.
Yeah, and again, it's interesting, right? Because they probably, like, I don't know what the time sequence of them putting this together was, but it looked like one of the halls at the in 30 Rock that they were using for the Spirit Tunnel. I assume that's why they were able to gather so many cast members that were there to film those scenes. But it was probably one of the most like bit roles you could find for an SNL cast member. The fact that you're having like even Ashley's appearance in this, just as an example, like it's like a 1 second shot on screen of you see her like on the side of the Spirit Tunnel, which was weird for me, where I think that again, there was probably more comedy to mine from the actual tunnel than just how quickly they were shooting it. I guess they chose to go the route of, okay, we're going to just pick on Marcelo for being the one who wants to get that ego boost of walking down the tunnel. So yeah, I think there was things that I did like in this a lot. It just didn't fully come together for me the way I want. So I'm excited to rewatch that one. Let's go to another show where we're going to go to see a commercial for Beauty and Mr. Beast, where Nikki will be playing Belle, Andrew as her father, and then Ben as Mr. Beast. We're going to see Keenan as Cogsworth the clock and Bowen as Lumiere the candle. But instead of Beauty and the Beast, of course, it is a joke about Mr. Beast, who is, of course, one of the most richest, best YouTubers in the world, one of the richest people in the world, and host of Beast Games. So he's going to turn the whole concept of Beauty and the Beast into Mr. Beast. And I thought this was a fascinating sketch, Anthony. I'm so curious what you thought of it.
I really enjoyed this one. I think that if we're looking at the past 2 sketches of saying like, what didn't necessarily work, of like, either there not being the moment where you're like, oh, this is what the ride's going to be, or there being escalation. This one clicked a lot faster. And I was down as soon as the reveal was, we're not just doing a Beauty and the Beast sketch, it's Beauty and Mr. Beast. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really sharp. I thought Ben Marshall's impersonation was great. I think there's something about Mr. Beast of the eyes have to just stay incredibly flat while he's trying to pump up the charisma. And I thought that he kind of nailed that one. And yeah, I just thought that it was a really, really funny premise, especially him pointing out the art on the walls, and it just being some of the thumbnails of the YouTube videos. A lot of this one worked really, really well for me. And I felt like this was the first real high point of the episode.
And Amanda, another really solid sketch for Ben Marshall, who's having a very good last few weeks.
Am I like the old person now? I've heard of Mr. Beast, and I've but I didn't get it. And was it in this sketch where they said if you're over 25 years old, you don't understand what's going on? Was it
Well, they said
another
like tale
sketch?
as old as time, Squid Game for the teens. So yeah, I
No,
guess.
but in another sketch, there was at some point in the night there was like a on the screen, like it said like a credit that said like if you're 20. Wasn't it this sketch?
It's possible. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just like now I'm like looking at Mr. Beast. I'm gonna have to. This has evaded me. I
Yeah,
have my blind spots.
Mr. Beast hosts a reality show called Beast Games, where he gives out like $5 million to the winner. I think that's right. For like sort of doing these like Squid Game type things. I mean, obviously that's a takeoff on his YouTube channel where he gives out a ton of money and prizes for doing, ridiculous tasks. But yeah, I thought this was really fun here because if you do know Mr. Beast and you get it, I think Ben did a fantastic job with it.
I loved Bowen and Keenan in it, regardless that the costumes. I know they have Beauty and the Beast costumes on deck, but I thought that Bowen was really funny in this, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, in the chat, chat is saying it was a quick card in the sketch. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, you guys
so
were
you are-
staring at me blankly. I'm like, did I imagine that? Is that because me just getting old and just?
No, sorry, it's just a lot to process and then talk about here. But yeah, I did really like this one. I think that this was one of my favorite parts of the night, getting to see this. And I thought what was really fascinating about this sketch is that they did it as a live sketch and not a pre-tape. It felt like such a pre-tape. And I love that they did it that way and that we were able to sort of get the I would say the awkward silence of Ben Marshall staring into the camera as Mr. Beast, as we he makes you feel uncomfortable in the way that Ben is playing him. And I don't think that would have worked in a pre-tape. And it feels like they would have typically leaned on that, Anthony. So you want to jump in on that?
No, I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, was the fact that it was live and it felt like it could have been pre-tape, but the pacing of it just felt like everything was clicking. I just really, really appreciated that. I think to the point that I made at the very top, it felt like every single cast member just knew what their role was. And everybody just kind of stepped up and did that. And because of it, it's like, yeah, this could work as a pre-tape, or we can do this live because everybody's going to be on their P's and Q's.
Yeah, this was really solid. So let's move over to our American Girl XL commercial, where we are going to get to a pre-tape where Nikki's going to play Heather Reynolds, an executive at American Girl Doll. And she's going to talk about how now that they have grown-up versions of their American Girl dolls, where Chloe has a teacher doll and Ashley has a justice doll and Andrew has a nurse doll that takes good care of him. Veronica has a doll. Sarah has a doll. Ben has a doll with feet that are so lifelike. Cam's looks like his brother's wife and is biracial. And it causes Heather in the sketch to be very confused as to why all of these men are purchasing American Girl dolls. Tommy's doll has hands that churn butter. Mikey's is an Olympic skier and is just great with the poles. James takes the clothing from the small doll and puts it on the XL doll. So we get to see a lot of cast members in this one, and just the difference between how the men treat their American Girl XL dolls and the women. Amanda, what did you think of our American Girl sketch?
This was great. The hardest part for me was like getting over the fact that like actually no adult women want these dolls for like non-sexual reasons. Like I didn't buy into like the idea that like these dolls would be created for women or anything that isn't weird. But I really liked it, and I actually liked the tone. Kind of, I thought it was very like The Office, like it was like hard to laugh at, but like also like laughing the whole time. I also thought Nikki was fantastic in this, so props to her and everybody involved. I mean, I'm sure it was like a lot of fun to make, and the costume and set, prop designs go hard. So shout out to them.
Yeah, her reactions to all of the men really made this for me. Anthony, how did you feel about this one?
I really enjoyed this one. I think, again, everybody's moments just worked really, really well. Absolutely lost it on I made mine biracial and it just has a black head on a white body. That visual is insane. The whole time though, I'm wondering, I'm just like, how do you get away with saying American Girl and having it attached to this? would just love to know like the legal loopholes or whatever in order to make that one possible. But nah, this one was really, really funny. And again, every cast member just played their role. And I felt like it then worked really well for Nikki just to have the reactions on the back end of it. The lasting image of the hot dog just going into the face was just really funny. I thought this one worked very, very well.
I agree. I think that what worked the most for me in this sketch was the pacing of it, where I think they were very deliberate about how they escalated with the men here. And it's funny because, Andrew starts off for the men where he has like the nurse doll that's going to take good care of him. And I just, when you think about like the men on the cast, like I would think like, okay, Andrew could probably play creepy, maybe even the best, but they started with him. And what was really cool was getting to see that the rest of the cast members who don't typically take on the creepy, predatory type role would end up doing really well in this sketch, where we're going to escalate to Ben, who I think back to back had two really solid segments in a row. I thought Cam was hilarious in this sketch, as you just said, Anthony. And then, Tommy to Mikey, and then to James, who came in and crushed this, where you think he's going to come in. And again, this is like one of those like meta things where if you watch SNL every week, you're rewarded for it because you think that James is going to come in and be the spokesperson for the commercial, except he's also a major creep. And I think that really allowed this one to flourish in the way that it did. So huge props for putting this one together, even though it was hard not to think of the Travis Kelce American Girl doll sketch from a couple of years ago, where he's sort of playing like, why is he sitting there? Why is he playing with the dolls? But again, a lot of good stuff in here. We're going to go to another live sketch where we're going to have a bachelorette party who's at a bar and there's a mechanical bull. Chloe's riding the bull at first, and then she comes over to the rest of the girls where Veronica's getting married. Jane has this sort of like moment that she had similar to like what she did in Chalamet's episode. There was a sketch, like a barista sketch last year, where she just like walks in and out after a couple lines. Has that moment here, is that she wishes she was getting married to her. Then we see Nikki and Sarah, who are playing Kayla and Delula, who decide to get on the bull. Andrew's the MC in the sketch, and Keenan is playing Andre, who's having a dilemma about what level to put the bull at. He ends up sending it to Bon Voyage, and they are off, and they are traveling the country as they move to a green screen and go city to city as things are being thrown at them. James is going to come on, sort of this Elvis guy who's going to be singing about, these two drunk, dumb bitches on a runaway mechanical bull. And it is just going all over the world. Eventually, they'll go at the speed of light. They'll pick up Jeremy as Galileo. It is a very silly sketch that I am so fascinated to talk about here. Anthony, what did you think of this one?
I enjoyed this one. It did not go in the direction that I thought it would at all. The note that I initially made was I thought that it would focus on Keenan and the moral dilemma of him just operating the mechanical bull on drunk women all night. And then it quickly goes in a completely different direction. But it's so fun just to watch again, like, them getting things thrown at them having to deal with water, them having to just balance out, doing all of those things while then remembering all of the lyrics. It's one where, like, when you catch in a cast member starting to break a little bit, you kind of ride with it because you're like, yeah, this is so ridiculous that I'm not mad at the fact that, you're allowing that to happen. And then, yeah, by the end of it, you're like, y'all somehow landed this plane. I don't know how this got pitched. I don't know what the thought process was behind it, but it works. And again, it's everybody clicking on all cylinders to just allow for the sketch to do exactly what it needs to do. But this was one of the most unexpected laughs that I had the entire night.
It was my favorite part of the night. It was so different and creative. It reminded me a little bit of what we got in the Lady Gaga episode, which I loved last season, of the luggage sketch where they went all around the studio. I think they found a way here to just play with the space, do something different. I thought James was so good in this role, and it just, it does make you wonder about like how many episodes of great James content we would be getting if it wasn't for the burden of him having to play Trump every week. But I will say tonight was an episode where he got to spread his wings even more. And I think that this was really cool as he's singing while Sarah and Nikki are going all around the world. Amanda, how did you feel about this one?
Oh, I absolutely love this. Similar to Anthony, I did not expect this. I feel like it was like really went a different direction. At points, I was like, they're giving like the simple life, like it's like a callback. They're doing like a little bit of like a Paris and
Nicole Richie.
Nicole Richie thing. I know, thank you. I thought that it reminded me of like Kristen Wiig, like kind of the song reminded me of like Clancy T. Baccarat. Is that how you say it? I can
That
never
is,
say
yeah, you
this.
nailed it.
Wow. Okay. Like a little bit. Will Forte, Kristen Wiig vibe in there. Like maybe it was the JJ doing the song. It was just crazy. And I liked someone in the chat said I liked that when they said they're just gonna throw things at Sarah Sherman, like they broke the fourth wall, and we're just calling her Sarah Sherman, which I thought was very funny. Yeah, it was great. I feel like you guys covered a lot of it. I won't repeat what you've already said, but I also like immediately was like, oh, John's gonna love this. Like they're trying something new. Like that's gonna be huge for John. So
Very nice.
was really excited to talk about it.
Very nice that you know what I like and what I don't like. But yeah, I mean, look, you can't help it, right? When you watch like so many sketches and so many episodes, and then you see something really cool and creative, you got to give your props. Like even if it didn't work, right? At least they're trying something. And I think that was fun here. And that's the type of thing where I only think that they try sketches like this on nights where they get a host that they really, really like. I think that's like the biggest indication about how a cast feels about a host is that they're willing to do something like this, because I just think it was Nikki's energy added something fun to the group. Even if every sketch of the night didn't work for you when you're watching this, I like this one is the biggest indication of that, where you see Jeremy, who's playing this Galileo, who's sort of being like trying to hold on to the mechanical bull, and he's just like having the time of his life holding on while Sarah's laughing. Like I think it's that thing that's that energy that translates through the TV screen to us at home and makes us feel like we're a part of what's going on at the studio. So that's why I love this one. I thought it was fantastic. I cannot wait to rewatch this one. Let's talk about Sombr, where Sombr is here performing 12 to 12 and back to friends, including a nice climbing up the side ladder and using the set here. Amanda, were you excited to see Sombr perform tonight on Saturday Night Live?
Oh, you already know I was, John. I knew this was coming, and I was really interested to see how he would tackle Saturday Night Live, which we know is not as famously or infamously not always the best acoustics for vocalists, and I think that he crushed it. He's so fun to watch. I can and I cannot believe he's 20 years old. He's very clearly 20 years old, but also I think he's extremely talented and comfortable in his skin. I really wanted him to be in the show. He could have been in the Jennifer Hudson pre-tape. Why couldn't he have been in the J HUD? That could have been a spot for him. I'm dying to see the musical guests, especially like the younger ones who are not yet friends of the show. They haven't like solidified their place as friends of the show. I want to see them put in sketches. Like I want to see them out of their comfort zone. I know Saturday Night Live, you're getting pushed out of your comfort zone just by virtue of being the musical guest, but I want to see you even more out of your comfort zone. I think that should be a rule going forward. You have to appear in the show outside of the musical number, just in some way, like even if it's like a voiceover. So that's what I would implement if it were up to me. But I thought Sombr was great. I knew he was going to play these songs. I thought it was cool that he started with the piano, his version of Back to Friends, the second one. I did think he got kind of stuck when he was climbing, like the mic that he had like a corded mic, and it got kind of stuck on the ladder. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I also thought the set was really cool. Definitely in 12 to 12. So fun to have Sombr on. It also seemed like Nikki and Sombr, like at the good nights, I feel like Nikki was like, they seemed like friends. So that was nice to see.
I think he probably surprised a lot of people tonight. I think his general audience and fan base would naturally be a lot younger than your typical SNL fan. And I think that there was a lot of people who watched the show tonight probably skeptical of like, all right, what are we going to get from Sombr? But I think he nailed it. And I thought he was great tonight, Anthony. How did you feel?
Totally agree. He got nominated for a Grammy earlier this week, and I think this tonight he showed why that was well deserved. And no, I think that similar to your point, we don't often get to see, how musicians take the opportunity to perform live and really make that something that's their own. And I thought that, for this to be an intro for a lot of people, That's how you come in strong. It's like, this shows you why you deserve the award recognition. This shows you why you're getting the streams that you're getting. Brings it a brand new fan base, which is great. So yeah, shout out to Sombr, shout out to Warner Music. I definitely think they have something really fun with him, and excited to see, where his career continues to go. Because yeah, it was 2 really solid performances, but a really strong way to kind of kick things out the gate.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I mean, he's so young. I'm sure that he'll have another opportunity to be on Saturday Night Live at some point. We'll be interested to see if they decide to bring him back. Let's go to Weekend Update, where Colin and Michael are going to be talking a lot about the news of the week. And then they will have one correspondent only on Weekend Update tonight. And that is Pete Davidson, who is there to talk about the ferry that has just been all over the news, right? That nothing is happening with this thing. But here we go. Pete's going to come out, has some nice jokes to Joseph Shea, talks about why he had to do the show in Saudi Arabia because he's losing millions of dollars on this ferry. He talks about his upcoming, he will be a dad in the future. That is on its way. And a lot of jokes about the ferry as well. We get a great bit about the mayoral election, which we'll cover, I'm sure, as we talk through this piece from Pete joining the desk. So I will start with Amanda here, because I know you must be very excited about this. So Amanda, how do you feel about Pete on the update desk?
I feel really good. For reasons, obviously, you know that I love Pete so much, but it's also so crazy when you've been watching the show this long and there's like a callback to like a former era that's like not that long ago, but it's just like felt like, I don't know, it's like very nostalgic. And he has this way, like, when he rolls in, like he's like, "Hi, Colin." Like that's like how he always starts every update piece. And he kind of did that. He didn't do it in full, but it's just like, I just like feel like this show rewards you for like watching long term and like sticking by it for, things you like and things you don't like. And this was just like a very like cool moment for me, because Pete Davidson on Update was like one of the first things that I loved about the show when I started watching. Short, like when I started watching every week was like right before Pete joined, and then I just feel like I've grown up with Pete on the show, so it's like a very crazy callback. The piece itself, I mean, there's some jokes. I mean, I love a good Staten Island roast, and like it was really just like, he has to do Staten Island, he has to do 9/11, his dad dying and catapulting him to fame. So like, I think it wasn't like a groundbreaking update piece, but Pete's never were either. It's just like him just like being like this regular ass dude on Update, but now him and Colin Jost have a ferry, or they have for years. Actually, they bought the boat before he left the show, right? Like they bought the boat like 3 years ago. I guess that we probably don't keep stats on the boat, but I think it was like that season.
No stats on the boat. I mean, I know they talked about it, I think, when he hosted.
No, Alex Muffet did the boat guy to make fun of Colin and
You're right. You're
Pete
totally
for
right.
doing. Yes, this is the one thing that I might know well, but
that I don't.
Yeah, it was just it was great.
Yeah, I thought this was really strong. I mean, again, it's just one of those things where sometimes people need to go away to really miss them in full. And I know we just saw Pete at the 50th, and he has hosted in the last couple of years, but it did feel like really nostalgic to have him there at the desk. I thought that he was always really solid. And my thing, Anthony, about Pete at the desk has always been throughout his tenure that like when Pete Davidson legitimately cares to be there and puts in the effort, he's one of the best to do it. But sometimes he didn't care. Sometimes he had so much else going on that he didn't look like he wanted to be on that show. And that was what was difficult to, anoint him as one of the greats. And I think that tonight he loved being there. He felt at home. And I think it made us all feel like excited to see him. So how did you feel about this one?
I felt totally the same. I think I told you at the very top of it, I feel like this whole thing was just everybody showing up and being the best version of themselves. You just got married, so maybe you can relate to this. At your wedding, you want everybody to show up and be the absolute best version of themselves. I want you to be the funniest version of yourself, the coolest version of yourself. Everything that I love about you needs to show up tonight. And I feel like that's what we got from the cast. That's going to be the water cooler moment tomorrow. That's going to be, or rather Monday when we go back to work, but that's going to be what's going to go viral tomorrow. It's going to have a little bit of legs to it. He showed up and it was so funny. The joke, I'm only famous because my dad died, good God, like we're dropping bombs as soon as we start. And then it does not stop until like, you know, the sketch was over with. And then that in tandem with the fact that like, you know, the first couple of jokes at the very top of it, also very, very solid. I actually enjoyed their take on, you know, the Trump press conference more than I did the cold open, which, you know, is saying something about the cold open, but thought that it worked really, really well. And then, yeah, to your point, Pete shows up and you're like, okay, this can either be fine or this could be something really, really special. And out the gate, again, it's like, no, we're going special here. We're going to have a lot of fun. And no, that was chef's kiss. Not to me, even the peak of the episode, but definitely one of the better points, you know, throughout the entire show. But yeah, up until this point, I'm like, oh, this is really, really, really fun SNL that we're watching.
It was really fun, and it was so exciting, especially that line that I alluded to earlier, which is that he brings up the mayoral election, and he says that that's his least favorite oral. And he's like, classic Pete. And this card comes up of classic Pete with a picture of him from his like I'm Just Pete sketch from season 49 when he hosted. And then he's like, yeah, like it's new bits. It's like, yeah, now I got this in chat. And like, I love that like really meta moment there of he was always just like the update guy and he had one character, like in an era where characters were starting to die off being the thing that people were most known for on Saturday Night Live. He still had his one thing, which was Chad. But yeah, this was really funny that they added that to his repertoire. So great seeing Pete at the desk. We did have a cut correspondent from the desk, and that was Keenan Thompson as Magic Johnson talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series. So we did not get that at the desk tonight. We got just Pete. All right, let's go to our first post update sketch, and that will be the Delta Gamma sorority, where we're going to have Chloe, Nikki, Mikey as Alyssa, Sarah, Ashley as Maddie, Veronica, and Jane all sitting around. They're talking about the Thanksgiving party theme for their sorority, and that they got an email recently from another sorority about a pledge who is pretending to be a girl and is wearing a hyper realistic girl mask. And we see that Mikey is doing that in this sketch. And eventually Ashley will be the one to call Mikey out on this as he is trying to eat a donut through this amazing mask. And I got to shout out Louis because like he's the star of the sketch. The fact that he made that mask, I believe, and put this whole thing together. But very creepy mask as he's trying to eat the donut and then tries to vape, which I just know my SNL and I know that they're not going to give us the gold of Mikey trying to vape and it not working and seeing Chloe almost crack up, which is what happened in the live version of this sketch. So I will not let that die. I hope they post that one. But of course, my expectation is they're going to post the one where the vape works. But yeah, it did not work in the live version of this. And then it eventually, he will be revealed. And then we'll get cut to a pre-tape of Nikki also taking off the mask and seeing that it is Andrew Dismukes under it. Anthony, how did you feel about this Delta Gamma sorority sketch?
I mentioned it earlier. I thought Weekend Update was going to be the peak. And I was like, oh, wait, this is actually going to be it. I didn't know where the sketch was going. But again, if we're talking about like, you know, folks just kind of running with the ball and making it work, Mikey Day did some really, really good stuff here to the point where I was dying to know who was actually under the mask because the whole time I could not tell which cast member it was.
I knew from the arms. I was like, those are Mikey arms.
No,
Here, Amanda, we're not hearing you. So just double check that your mic is all good. But Anthony, please continue. Yeah.
No, all good. No, I really, really enjoyed Mikey, his mask work. I just thought it was really, really fantastic. Would have loved to have seen, you know, it without the tech issues, like, you know, just going smoothly from the beginning. But no, the entire time I just could not take my eyes off of Mikey, just trying to eat with the mask on, trying to vape with the mask on. All of it worked so well. And again, just all of the other cast members, like, you know, offering like, you know, their quips here and there. I thought this sketch worked really, really well, better than I anticipated it to.
Yeah, so I was saying before, like, I thought the ending was a pre-tape. Like, I thought that when they, at least that shot of Nikki taking off the mask and then it being Andrew. So that was my impression, at least. But yeah, I thought this was super silly. And I thought that Mikey, who has, in a way, become the physical comedian of the cast, was doing a lot of great physical comedy here. Amanda, do we have you here?
Do you have me?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was saying that I thought it was Tommy Brennan for most of the time. And I was also thinking that's not Mikey because I know Mikey's arms and those are not Mikey's arms, which is such a weird thought to have and also to be wrong about. But I really liked it. I was like a kind of like a White Chicks reference. I don't know if you said that while I was dealing with the sound. Like that's like what it reminded me of immediately. It was ridiculous. It felt like a 10-1. But not in a bad way. I just like I was thinking they should have done more like than vape and eat a donut. Like, although I guess I don't know what else he would have had to take the mask off for. It was ridiculous. One of the like sketches. I actually feel like, I guess besides Mr. Beast, a lot of the sketches tonight were kind of evergreen. Like, could have been slotted in anywhere. They're just like silly, like kind of high concept. But I really liked this, and I wrote down at the end Andrew again, but now you're telling me it's a pre-tape, so he wasn't in the live.
I don't think technically he's in the live sketch, but I think
in
that
the live
portion
sketch.
was cut to a pre-tape. But it doesn't matter because I don't think it changes the quality of what we got here, which was again really fun. I'll say that I enjoyed Mikey's portrayal of this character so much, especially also because the vape not working. Again, like that's what I think is fun in live television, as he's like trying to get this going, and he does it like 3 times, and you see Chloe trying to break, or trying to not break next to Mikey in this one. But I think that this is the type of character that, just to me, like I think this could be a recurring character. I think you could take the guy, like we don't know anything about him, why he was trying to be in the sorority, why he's wearing the mask, but I think the weird mask dude could be in so many different situations in this show. And I think that that's a thing of like, I encourage SNL and the cast members not to be afraid of recurring characters in this sense, where if you just put them in different situations, they continuously will feel fresh. And I think that this is the thing of like, there is, in the world of this sketch, some sort of backstory here to like, why did this person want to be in the sorority? What did they miss out in their youth? Or why did they feel like they're so connected to the sorority girls that they wanted to wear this mask? And I would love to see them find a way to bring this back. So I know that Mikey maybe will consider it one day, but yes, I had a lot of fun with this one. Amanda, do you disagree? You're making a lot of faces.
I just think it's really funny of all the things that you're like, just for the reasons you just explained, the guy with no backstory, we have no reason, like we have no idea why he's there in a mask at a sorority. But you're like, yes, this guy, I want to see him in other situations.
Yes,
I think
that's what I want from the show.
And you think that we could learn more as we go. We don't need to know anything. You don't need to know anything for you to sign up to seeing him again.
Trust me, if Bowen's Dr. Please can end up randomly in like 3 or 4 sketches, this guy can end up in other sketches too. So I think that that's the right place to go with this. But speaking of Mikey, he then has another big moment because he's going to debut a cartoon called Brad and His Dad alongside his writing partner, Streeter Seidel, where Brad is playing video games and the dad walks in, takes his headset, and starts arguing with him a little bit about how he should be spending his time. They take his Brad goes to the playground. He's too old for this. He ends up playing football with his dad and gets full-on Peyton Manninged in the head. They're playing with some drones. They end up resorting to going to play video games, and we get to see that his dad says, "I love you more than your mom does," as we see the relationship between Brad and his dad. There was some animated shorts that Mikey and Streeter produced last season. This one had a little bit of a different feeling to those, but still very cool that we got a new type of pre-tape and back to the well of a cartoon. Anthony, how do you feel about the SNL cartoon here?
Enjoyed it. Very unexpected. So, I haven't seen, I think the last 2 episodes. I've been a little bit behind on SNL. So my first thought was, oh, is this something that has been popping up more recently and I'm just not hip to it? I will say, pacing wise, it did take me out for a second just because I wasn't expecting it. And I felt like this might have been something that had I come across it, on Instagram or just someplace else on social, it might have landed a little bit different for me. But I did enjoy it. I thought that the premise of it was really good. I low-key think that this is something that they might even be able to stretch out into it becoming its own thing, like series, whatever. But no, it was super polished. It was really fun. And again, different, I think, but just different enough that it just took me out. And I felt like had we not had this and maybe snuck in another pre-tape or another sketch, would have made the episode feel a little bit cleaner for me.
Yeah, I did really think that this was interesting. I will also see a lot of our chat is asking about where Dan Bula has been so far this season. We talked about this in the preseason, but he's touring with Adam Sandler in the fall, so that's why we're not getting as much Dan Bula. But I thought that this was cool to get, again, another different type of short. We've seen music videos, we've seen commercials, we've seen films so far this season, Amanda, but nothing like a cartoon. How did you feel about this one?
I liked it. Do you know whose voice was Mikey the kid and Streeter, his dad?
So Mikey was for sure the kid. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure who the dad was. I think we thought it may have been Andrew, actually. But if anyone in the chat wants to give their opinion, because I didn't get a chance to go back and listen to it. Usually it's one of those things where I'll get that information on a Sunday, like prior to the roundtable, and then we'll talk about it on Monday. But I wasn't exactly sure who the voice of the dad was. So if one of you guys have an opinion, let me know, because I love to just gather some thoughts on that. But yeah, Amanda, please go ahead.
Oh, I really liked it. It ended up, the tone was like not what I was expecting. It just felt different and fresh and like cool that they got it on. I don't know when they wrote it, or like if they had something they had in their back pocket throughout the season or whatever, if they wrote it and they got it on right away. But it was cool. It's like fun to like, I mean, the show already does this with pre-tapes and like the way it's broken up with update, the musical numbers, like the beats really change, but it does feel like another, like a different texture, and like it adds like a layer to the show when the format, like it's like a really like such a mixed media show at this point. It's very cool.
Yeah, I agree. And again, like this wasn't the most hilarious thing, but I just felt like it felt very good to have something in the show that had a different tone to it, to be able to make the show feel fresh throughout the night. So I liked it. Then we're going to go to our delayed flight sketch, where we're going to see Sarah, Andrew, Bowen, and Keenan all as people on a plane who are waiting for the flight to take off. Nikki's playing the flight attendant who blames Mom Donnie and the shutdown for the flight not actually moving forward. James is playing the captain, who's really the anchor of this sketch, as he is talking over the intercom about his being on dating and being back on the apps and matching with the cute 7.5. Cam plays his co-pilot, or sort of his wingman in this sketch, as he's describing the texts and telling people to sit back and enjoy the flight, eventually looking for advice from people like Bowen and Keenan. Amanda, what do you think of this one?
I liked it. I think that this was like definitely all James. I found James's character quite endearing, and I thought James's performance was great. Otherwise, I don't think it would have worked as well for me. So it just like tickles me that they default back to like a plane, which I get why. Like that's like a good way to get a lot of people in one shot, and like they're waiting because the plane's not fucking taking off, But like I feel like that's like a premise, or like you're in the air, it's like you're just stuck together and you're like it's an easy way to get a group reacting to one thing, but it's not usually the pilot. I feel like the flight attendants usually are like the ones like communicating with the passengers in these types of sketches. So I thought that was cool. I thought this was a really good James thing. And I think that kind of on point with what you've been saying, really interesting to think about what James's trajectory on the show would have been had Trump not gotten reelected. So like, what would we have seen from James in the last year that we didn't and do see sometimes, but like that he just would, if he wasn't tied up with Trump, like what else would we'd be seeing him doing, and like what other types of roles and who are playing the types of roles that James might otherwise play. It's just like a very interesting thought exercise to me, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's probably more of a roundtable conversation to really get into the minutia of James, but I just think that there are so many opportunities where we could have had episodes like this where James is still able to play Trump at the start of the night, but then we get a couple of things from him that allow him to show his incredible range and his ability to anchor sketches in a way that, like, there's like, it's like a Phil Hartman-esque thing that he could do in these types of sketches. And I think it's a little bit of a shame that we don't get that as much as we do. But I do think that he absolutely elevated this sketch for me. Just the realism in his voice as he was describing everything. And I loved Cam at his side. I thought that Cam was so great pumping him up, Anthony. There was a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, agreed. I think you guys both definitely hit it. This was so good of JAJ, a good spot for him. That is the quintessential pilot voice. which he just had down, the cadence, everything, and just the ridiculousness of some of the things that he's saying when he realizes that the girl that he's been texting is definitely on her phone because she posted to her stories. I wrote down the line, blah, I'm in hell. Like, just hilarious delivery of it. And yeah, again, just really nice to see, like, you know, another cast member be in the spot where it's like, I'm going to be the glue. I'm going to hold this thing together. And no pun intended, but like, I'm going to land the plane here. Everything about it I thought really worked well. And it was just a really, really, really funny sketch. Not one that I expected to go in the direction that it did. I think when I first saw, you know, the setup of the cast members on the plane, mine immediately goes to, oh, we're just going to do something where Nikki's kind of like, you know, like the kind of star of this being the airline attendant. But frenetic energy for this one kind of wins and makes it all work, with James just being the person that's going to guide and make this entire thing kind of feel like something that we can follow.
I'm totally with you. I really do love getting to see James just do other things. And I think that the premise itself was okay. Just the idea that a lot of people are going to be sitting on flights and that the flight situation is only going to get worse, as Amanda said earlier, so that you can only imagine what the pilots are thinking as they sit there getting ready to take off, as there are delays and no air traffic control. So I get what they were going for here, but this took a whole other turn when James was able to carry this the way that he did. And that was really impressive for the night. All right, let's talk about the final sketch that we got, which is the make-believe meadow, as we are introduced with the Chloe voiceover to Nikki as Anna, who is there with, you know, going back to the make-believe meadow one last time to see Mikey, Jeremy, Ben, Sarah, and Bowen as she got them gifts. She got Mikey and Jeremy a pinwheel, Ben and Sarah kaleidoscopes, and Bowen, she drew a picture for him, but it's really Mikey and Jeremy who are there to talk about the pinwheel as they run around. And I thought that this was so exciting because we finally got a moment here from Jeremy Colhane to really show something on the show instead of the bit roles we've been seeing him in. He's been huge in the promos and all the social media content that SNL has put out in the last few weeks, but on the show itself, there's been you know, it's been a scarcity to see Jeremy really spread his wings. And I thought alongside Mikey here, he had a great moment at the end of the night. So Amanda, what did you think of this final sketch we got?
This was batshit crazy. So whatever I said earlier, I thought could have been a 10-1. It just certainly couldn't have when this was still in the lineup. I wasn't sure if I was like missing a reference. I feel like that has happened recently. And then I'm like, oh, like, but this is just out of their brains. This was Bowen for me. This was like when Bowen started yelling at Mikey and Jeremy, that was my favorite part, and like kind of broke from the voice that he had been putting on. The set was unbelievable. The costumes were amazing. I feel like another like Bowen in like a theatrical, like Wicked-esque costume. I had no idea what was going on. It was kind of like, was it a Starburst commercial? Who was the little boy that loves berries and cream? What was that? Why is that coming to my head?
Yeah, like I know the song in my head. Yeah, like, the berries, the little lad.
The little lad. Was that a YouTube video? Was that a commercial?
It's a Starburst commercial.
It's a Starburst commercial. Okay, that's what it reminded me of. Like, I think that's what Jeremy and Mikey reminded me of. There might be in my nightmares also, but it was very good. Also, kind of fun to see Mikey in that kind of role as well. Crazy. So Andrew Dismukes was not in this one.
Andrew was not in this one. So
okay, there you go.
Was broken here, but this was absolutely carried by Mikey and Jeremy, who were just running around. Camera angles be damned as they ran through the entire set here. Anthony, did you enjoy our last sketch of the night?
All right, I'm gonna preface by saying this. This one wasn't for me, but I know it's for somebody, and I appreciate that they made it for them. This felt like, I don't know if like you watched like, you know, Adult Swim in like the mid to late 2000s, but it felt like something that you would just come across at like 12:30 in the morning, and it has no reference to anything. It's just some crazy kooky dream that the writers and like, you know, the talent decided to put together. And then, like, for whatever reason, it just has, like, you know, that half-life that almost becomes the inside joke of people just screaming it, dropping it on each other's Facebook walls, whatever. Like, that's very much where I went to with it. That humor doesn't always work for me. But I appreciate it because I'm like, I know that's for somebody. There's somebody out there that feels like they're represented by getting that. To the point that you made, I thought that it was a great moment for Jeremy, and I thought that he and Mikey really carried this one. I loved just how upset Bowen got midway into it. Hearing him just at full volume just screaming was really funny. So no, sketch wasn't for me, but I'm not mad at the sketch either.
Yeah, I mean, we've been calling out other cast members who have had really good one-line moments in sketches so far this season, and I want to add Bowen to that list, who just got so annoyed and yelled enough of the pinwheel in a way that I think only he could, and that's the thing that's like, that was perfect for that moment in the sketch. And then I think there was like this moment of Jeremy has this thing in his face, and I think that it's something that he brings to his characters, where no matter how annoying they can be, you always sort of feel bad for them. And I think that that's a quality that he brings to the show that is unique to him. I don't think there's anybody else on this current cast who can have that. And like, he is very lovable in that sense. And I think that because he is, you can write the most weird, ridiculous characters and you're always still going to like Jeremy. And I think that that is like the perfect quality in an SNL cast member that I would want if I was putting together a cast for this show. So I'm so excited about him and what we can see moving forward. And I felt like Mikey, who had a really solid night here, was the perfect partner, almost in the way that Heidi was to Ashley last year. I feel like that Mikey can be to Jeremy in that sense. I know Tommy has been taking a lot of, typical Mikey straight man roles, but I think the sillier version of Mikey is a little bit more Jeremy perhaps. And that is a good passing of the torch moment maybe that we get here just, earlier on in the season. So I thought this was really fun. And I had a great night overall, just watching all of these sketches. Overall, like I said, the cast for me used really well, and that's been a strong theme of the season, that they found a way to include so many different people and so many voices. So I want to think about how we're going to rate this one out of 10. Chat, I'm going to ask you to put your numbers in there, and we'll put them up on screen. Amanda, Anthony, you think as well, as I tell you guys what was cut from the night. So we got, of course, Keenan as Magic Johnson on Update that I talked about earlier, and then 3 other sketches. So first is the human resource reps, where Bowen and Nikki repeatedly tell Ashley and Jeremy, we're going to have to let you go. Pregnant Chloe is also let go, and James appears in drag since they're all still going to drag bingo despite the firings. Then we have a hot guy sketch where Chloe and Ashley, who has a drinking problem, convince Nikki to flirt with Marcelo. Marcelo as a toddler core 60-year-old. Nikki keeps calling him Lil Cutie, who blows bubbles, sips drinks with a straw. It also briefly featured Jeremy and Cam, so that was more of a Marcelo sketch. And then we had a waitresses sketch where Veronica sort of channels her. It was like a Sewell Forrester type of character, like that old Chris Kattan character. And this was a Veronica-centric sketch. It featured Mikey and Jeremy as customers, and Nike as a trainee waitress, and Tommy as a host. I do wonder if that one, as it's, a rookie and in her voice, maybe coming on in the future. So we'll see. A couple changes between Dress and Air. The mechanical bull sketch that we all praised had a totally different ending in the dress rehearsal versus what we got in the live show, where Ed and Dress, it actually ended at the bar. There was Tommy as a cop in it. They completely changed that for the Air show. And in the sorority meeting sketch in Dress, Mikey's vape, of course, worked, but Mikey also made Ashley break in Dress in this sketch after eating. Chloe didn't break in that one, but it's just fun to see the comparison. So I do wonder again if the sorority meeting address version is the one that gets uploaded, how to compare the two as we will see them online. So Amanda, Anthony, let's start with your ratings here. Anthony, we'll start with you.
I am going 8. Going into this at the very top, I was going to say 7.5. The reason why I give it an 8 is after really kind of sitting with that final sketch and, again, just thinking not for you, but it's for somebody and it works. I'm like, this is an 8 episode. Every cast member did exactly what they were supposed to do tonight. Everybody showed up. Everybody gave you their best version of themselves. The writing, I thought, was very strong. And I thought Nikki was supported in a way where monologue came off exactly the way that I think she wanted it to, and will be received that way as well. But at no point did it feel like, we're looking at the host like, please save this, or, please make this work, or please be really funny in this. She was just exactly what she needed to be because she had the cast support on all cylinders. I don't know that it's a classic episode, but I do think that it's a very high bright spot of the season and will be for the rest of. And just like, and just like recent episodes that I've gotten to do this for and some that I've gotten to see, felt very, very solid. There weren't a lot of moments in it where I felt like it fell flat.
Amanda, how do you feel about this one?
I'm giving it an 8 also, for ingenuity. No real clunkers for me. Pete Davidson was there. Nikki crushed it. Yeah, you're not getting less than an 8 for me a night that Pete is at the desk. So there you go. Also, everything else deserves it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't mean to suggest that the rest of the episode did not merit an 8 for me. I think that the cast was phenomenal. I thought Nikki did a great job. Every single sketch was at least interesting to me.
Yeah, that's how I felt as well. I thought that everything was interesting. And like I said, the variety of voices that we got into this show was the most important for me, where it's the second time. I'll go back to the Sabrina episode. That was pretty similar, where that really helped for me. I mean, you got James's voice in the cold open. We had the family karaoke night, which is more of a Tommy sketch. Beauty and Mr. Beast was more Ben. Mechanical Bull Ride, more of a Sarah thing. Then we had the sorority pledge, more Mikey. Of course, then we had the Make Believe Meadow, which we got Jeremy in. So a lot of different voices that really carried this show here tonight, and I was excited to see the variety that we got throughout this evening. I think I'm going to lean 7.5. There was nothing that I thought was like a 10 out of 10 sketch. I think that perhaps the Mechanical Bull was the closest I got there, but I think that overall it was really solid. And honestly, for us being in the Hot Take show, I'm kind of feeling like this stretch from Amy Poehler through to Nikki Glaser has been my favorite 4-episode stretch since season 48. I don't think I've had that in the last 2 seasons where I felt there was a consistently good 4 episodes in a row that I'm feeling really strong about. And the fact that it is 4 out of the first 5 episodes makes me feel really good about this season. I'm not going to say that it is an all-time great season, but because we're still so early, but I think I'm really excited for everything that we're getting here, and it feels fresh and fun.
Agreed. And I think that, for all of the hesitancy or people just having a little bit of fear about how it was going to go into season 51 with us losing a couple of cast members, a lot of new folks showing up, and overall just that feeling of how is this all going to gel. It's gelling. I feel like everybody's learning their roles and everybody's playing up on what they're really good at. In addition to hosts that are showing up and that also want to play too. It's been real fun to watch.
It'll be exciting to see how it continues to develop. Of course, we have one more episode in this stretch of shows where next week we will be back with the Glenn Powell and Olivia Dean episode of Saturday Night Live, where we will be there for the Hot Take show to talk about everything that we see in 1 week from tonight. Of course, before we get there, we have our roundtable coming up on Monday night and our By the Number show coming up on Wednesday, where we will cover everything from this episode. We'll talk about all the biggest macro moments, and then Mike will go through everything from the stats angle of this episode. I'm very curious with all of the different cast members that were used, how the numbers are going to shake out for this episode. Sammy K and I will have our season 31, episode 5 rewatch podcast out this week, where it will be 20 years since the Jason Lee and Foo Fighters episode of Saturday Night Live, the first episode for Kristen Wiig as a cast member. So that will be up for our patrons and for our YouTube members out on a Wednesday. I'm looking forward to sharing that one with all of you. Of course, I want to thank everyone in the chat for hanging out with us here tonight. Anthony, always appreciate getting to catch up with you as well.
Likewise, my guy. Thank you very much for having me on. This was a fun time.
It was an amazing time. And Amanda, I appreciate you staying up late and hanging out with us once again.
Likewise, I'm so glad that my voice held up. Although I want to say on the podcast, on the record, I think that I sound like Rachel Sennett when this happens. So that's cool.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks, Amanda. And you sounded great. I want to thank Late Nighter for being the presenting partner for our show here tonight. And I want to encourage you, if you've never followed us on social media, we invite you to follow us. We have so many great stats out now from this Nikki Glaser episode. We're going to have more fun things for Glenn Powell coming up next week at the SNL Network for that. And I invite you to subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify to never miss anything we have going on here at the SNN. All right. On behalf of everybody here, including Amanda and Anthony, my name is Jon Schneider, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.